In the mid-90s, the standard blueprint for a console protagonist was fairly predictable. You were usually a spiky-haired youth with a sudden sense of destiny, a colourful mascot with an aggressive attitude, or a silent knight looking to rescue a pristine princess from a castle. Then in 1996, Blood Omen Legacy of Kain arrived and unceremoniously murdered the hero in the opening first 5 minutes. We aren't introduced to Kain as a noble saviour. We meet him as a cynical, incredibly arrogant nobleman wandering into a bleak tavern in the middle of nowhere looking for a warm hearth and a drink. Instead, he's dragged outside into the freezing rain, ambushed by a ruthless band of assassins, and left to rot in the dirt with a sword driven straight through his chest. When he is offered the chance at resurrection in the underworld, it isn't by a benevolent god or out of the goodness of his heart. It's a transactional curse born from a raw, burning desire for petty revenge. He accepts the gift of vampirism purely so he can hunt down the men who cut him down. There is a brilliant, dry subversion in playing as a character who is fundamentally an unpleasant, selfish person from the moment he takes his first breath as a corpse. Kain doesn't save people. He chains terrified peasants to stone walls and feeds on them to simply keep his own health bar from ticking down to zero. He views the sprawling world of Nosgoth not as a beautiful land to be protected, but as a political chessboard populated by weak-willed mortals and manipulative sorcerers who are standing in the way of his vengeance. This radical shift from the traditional hero to apex predator was a massive cultural pivot for the PlayStation 1 library. It dragged the medium away from the safe Saturday morning cartoon tropes and threw it headfirst in the realm of dark Shakespearean tragedy, complete with theatrical monologues and a thick, oppressive atmosphere of moral decay. It's a game that forces you to inhabit the cold skin of a monster, and more importantly, it makes you absolutely enjoy the view from behind his predatory eyes.
You thought yourself a king, when in fact you were a pawn. You have served me well, Kain.
I serve no one.
Indeed, such narrow vision. Don't you see? My silencing of Ariel and its calculated repercussions is but the first act in my theater of Grand Guignol, of which you are the tragic hero. Play on, little vampire. Play on.
Ve Victus!
Welcome to the PSX Index. I'm Parasine, and this is the show where I play and document all 1,278 PS1 games released across Northern America, and this episode is Index Entry 216. We are stepping into a landscape of absolute moral decay and narrative ambition. While a massive chunk of the PlayStation library in 1996 was desperately scrambling to figure out how to navigate basic 3D space with jittery polygons, Blood Omen took a different path. It decided to perfect the top-down perspective to deliver an epic that feels massive in scale, incredibly heavy in tone, and uncompromisingly dark. This isn't just a simple hack and slash game to burn through on a weekend. It's a sprawling, literal masterpiece that treats its audience like adults, trading colourful power-ups for complex sorcery and cold, calculating blood-drinking mechanics. As we document this entry, we are looking at a genuine landmark title for the era's design. This was a project that dared to prioritise world-building, script-writing and cinematic voice acting at a level that was almost entirely unheard of on a home console at the time. It's a game so foundational that it was ported to PC by Activision a year later and even rescued from digital purgatory for a GOG release in 2021. Yet its success triggered a massive, bitter real-world legal dispute over the intellectual property rights, a fallout that saw Crystal Dynamics take sole control of the franchise to build Soul Reaver, leaving Silicon Knights behind. Over the course of this deep dive, we're going to dissect the thick, gothic atmosphere of Nosgoth, the brutal reality of its structural gameplay loop, and the reflection of what it actually feels like to control a protagonist who is comfortably the villain of his own story. The pillars are crumbling, the blood is flowing, and the legendary legacy is about to begin. Grab your chalice and settle in, it's going to be a long, dark ride.
After slaughtering 6 of the sheep, I defeated their pathetic little shepherd, Malak. Since then, our kind has not bothered with the cattle except to feed. And I suggest you do the same. Meddling with the affairs of man can do us no good. Seraphan witch hunts are much too tedious to concern ourselves with. Am I understood, Kain? Good. Take this ring. If you ever need assistance, it will summon you. Despite your youthful arrogance, you amuse me, Kain. It would be such a pity to lose you to this. Now be gone.
The creation of Blood Omen is a fascinating story of immense, uncompromising creative ambition hitting the strict technical ceiling of mid-90s hardware. Developed by Silicon Knights and published by Crystal Dynamics, the project was envisioned from the start not as a simple piece of interactive entertainment, but as a genuinely literary experience. The developers weren't satisfied with just making a game that was fun to play, they wanted to craft something that felt historically significant. You can feel that thematic weight in every single environmental asset, every cryptic line of dialogue, and the sheer density of the world building. In 1996, filling a 700MB CD-ROM usually meant cramming it with highly compressed, grainy full-motion video cutscenes that aged terribly within 6 months. Silicon Knights took a completely different approach, using that massive digital storage space to record thousands of lines of high-quality, theatrical spoken dialogue and to construct an overworld map that felt genuinely endless to a player sitting in their living room. There's a natural conversation to be had about how this single title established a foundational lore so robust and captivating that it would eventually spawn an entire franchise of celebrated sequels and spin-offs. Yet even with the technical evolution of the later games, this original entry remains the most atmospheric, bleak, and uniquely human in its depiction of grim fantasy. It was a monumental undertaking for a young studio, a risky design philosophy that proved to the wider industry that the PlayStation 1 was capable of handling far more than just quick arcade ports and colourful mascot platformers. It proved that a home console could be a viable vessel for complex, long-form storytelling that rivaled contemporary literature and dark cinema, setting a new benchmark for what dark fantasy could achieve in a digital medium.
If we put you down once, we could do it again.
Their sneering faces were forever etched upon my memory. I had crossed death for this moment. My mind was empty save for one thought. I would kill. There is no greater release than that from vengeance sated. With my assassins dead, my quest was over.
"'Tis not over, Kain. These fools were merely the instruments of your murder, not the cause. Look to their masters, look to the pillars, and gain way to the fortress of the mind."
From a mechanical standpoint, Blood Omen operates like a dark, twisted mirror image of a traditional top-down adventure game. While contemporary titles were sending players on wholesome quests to collect golden triangles, Silicon Knights constructed a system built entirely around gothic resource management and violent predation. You navigate a massive, seamless overworld, uncovering hidden secrets and unlocking specialised equipment to progress. But instead of finding harmless boomerangs or bombs, you are mastering a massive suit of supernatural abilities. You can morph into a swift wolf to leap across deep chasms and outrun your enemies, or dissolve into a cloud of mist to slip effortlessly through iron grates and cross water safely. Taken to the skies in bat form allows you to immediately fast travel to discover checkpoints across the map, while a dictated human disguise is used strictly to sneak into local hamlets and covertly manipulate unsuspecting non-player characters who would otherwise run screaming from your rotten corpse. The core pillar of the entire gameplay loop is the blood meter, which serves as a brilliant mechanical translation of Kain's curse. Your health bar is in a state of constant, automated decay, acting as a literal ticking vampiric clock that aggressively punishes passive play. You cannot rely on breaking pots or cutting grass to find healing items. Instead, you must engage in brutal combat, stun an adversary, and drag their essence across the room with telekinetic energy. What makes this survival loop so brilliantly granular is that Silicon Knight implemented a strict, colour-coded metabolic system. Not all blood is a safe meal, and the game actively punishes mindless button mashing. Standard human red blood restores your health bar, and the blue blood of ghostly enemies replenishes your magic bar for casting spells. Conversely, tormented undead opponents relinquish a toxic black blood that actively harms you if ingested, and harvesting a demon on a mutant yields a fountain of glowing green poison that causes your health to deplete at a frantic, agonising rate. The combat itself is delightfully visceral, offering a varied arsenal of iron maces, fire swords, and the legendary two-handed Soul Reaver flamberge. This is backed by a dynamic day and night cycle, where Kain's physical potency actively increases under the cover of darkness, and certain hidden dungeons or sealed doors only unlock during specific full moon phases. The game design doesn't simply tell you that Kain is a monster through a passive cutscene. It forces you to actively make the tactical, metabolic choices required to sustain its wretched existence, turning every standard encounter into a high-stakes battle for your next specific meal.
Invoking this spell cloaks me under a protective aegis. Whatever spell is cast at me will be reflected back at the caster, leaving me unharmed. It will only last for a short time, however, before leaving me vulnerable once more.
You cannot accurately dissect Blood Omen without dedicating significant time to its audio design, which fundamentally elevated the entire production into something legendary. In an era where voice acting in video games was a notorious punchline, usually defined by stilted, low-effort delivery from local studio engineers, Silicon Knight recruited a cast of trained, theatrical British actors who treated the script like high drama. At the centre of this sonic triumph is Simon Templeman's vocal performance as Kain. His delivery is an absolute masterclass in theatrical arrogance, dripping with rich, aristocratic disdain that instantly commands your full attention. The game heavily relies on Kain's internal monologues, which trigger as you explore the bleak highways and ruined hamlets of Nosgoth. Rather than utilising generic text boxes to explain the world, the game allows Kain to narrate his own journey.
Bodies lay most in the very spots in which fate had taken them. A perfect homecoming.
Reflecting on the decay of the land, his growing hatred for humanity, and the tragic irony of his undead existence, there is an incredible haunting depth to see these audio segments that completely alter the player's relationship with the character. You aren't just controlling a sprite on a screen, you are trapped inside the mind of a highly eloquent, deeply resentful creature. This sophisticated audio approach gives the narrative an enduring quality that has allowed it to age far better than almost any of its 32-bit contemporaries. It acts as the emotional anchor for the entire experience, transforming what could have been a standard, repetitive top-down hack and slash into a grand, dark opera. Listening to Kain mock his fallen enemies or passionately curse the sorcerers who manipulated him provides a level of immersion that digital graphics simply couldn't achieve at the time. It proved that sound design wasn't just a supplementary feature, it could be the very soul of a console epic.
Yes, these weapons you've provided will see to that. Pray tell, Mobius, what game do you play?
None, my lord. I only wish to aid you in vanquishing your foes. The weapons are but a token of my goodwill.
And the news you bring, a vampire sent to slay me? Where did you come upon such knowledge?
'Tis of no consequence, sire. 'Twas only out of concern for your majesty's life.
Perhaps. Very well, then. You may leave me now, but should I wish to speak to you...
I will know, your majesty, and I shall be there in time.
The world of Nosgoth itself functions as a central character in Blood Omen, utilising a masterclass of environmental storytelling to subvert traditional fantasy tropes. instead of a vibrant, welcoming kingdom filled with bursting towns and helpful citizens. Silicon Knight crafted a land that feels genuinely ancient, exhausted, and terminally ill. From the moment you step out of the overworld, you are greeted by an oppressive colour palette of deep greys, muted greens, and blood reds. All wrapped in a perpetual blanket of fog and freezing rain, the hamlets you visit are populated by terrified, huddled peasants who lock their doors at night, completely aware of the predatory horrors lurking just beyond their torchlight. This pervasive atmosphere of moral decay is structurally anchored by the 9 pillars of Nosgoth, a massive supernatural monument that physically reflects the spiritual health of the realm. As the corrupted sorcerers of the Circle of Nine lose their minds to madness, the gigantic stone pillars literally crack, blacken and bleed, serving as a constant looming visual reminder of the world's impending collapse. There is a deep immersive weight to this world building that rewards slow methodical exploration. You aren't just travelling from dungeon to dungeon to collect keys. You are witnessing the slow, agonising death throes of an entire civilization. The environmental design consistently reinforces the thematic concept that there are no innocent parties left in this conflict. Every Gothic cathedral, ruined fortress, and swampy graveyard you discover feels heavy with centuries of dark history, torture, and betrayal. It is a brilliant realisation of grim dark aesthetic long before the term became a common gaming buzzword. The game never flinches from its bleak artistic vision, creating a deeply magnetic setting that keeps you moving forward, eager to uncover the next piece of tragic lore hidden within the rotten foundations of a dying world.
Above me stood a memory, etched in stained glass.
While the narrative and atmospheric design of Blood Omen deserve every bit of their legendary status, actually sitting down to play the game on original 32-bit hardware introduces a very specific, incredible dry form of mechanical friction. For all its dark majesty, the game suffers from an agonising technical flaw that functions as a true vampiric drain on the player's real-world patience. The loading screens, because the game features such an immersive variety of spells, armour sets, weapons and shape-shifting forms, you are required to constantly open and close your inventory menu to adapt to the changing combat scenarios. The tragic reality of 1996 CD-ROM technology means that every single time you press the select button to change your sword or equip a new magic illusion, the console has to completely pause the action, spin the disc, and load the sub-menu for several agonising seconds. This mechanical stutter completely shatters the pacing of the experience. Imagine being an all-powerful, immortal Lord of the Night, preparing to slaughter an entire legion of corrupted gods, only to be entirely neutralised by a sluggish user interface that forces you to stare at a blank screen while your console loudly grinds through data packets. It is a brilliant, almost humorous example of the technical compromises of the era. The ambition of Silicon Knight was simply too large for the physical constraints of the PlayStation 1's optical drive. Modern emulation and digital re-releases have drastically mitigated this issue, but to truly understand the reflection of a 90s gamer experiencing this masterpiece at launch, you have to factor in those literal hours spent waiting for Khan to simply look inside his pocket. It turns the grand epic into an exercise of modern patience, proving that even the most terrifying creature of the dark is ultimately helpless against the slow laser lens.
Flame sword. I passed through the wall unharmed. It seemed the magic only preyed on things that were alive and pure, or perhaps it simply decided that I was twisted enough.
As you claw your way towards the climax of Khan's long, blood-soaked journey, the narrative structure pulls off one final, brilliant subversion that was completely revolutionary for a console game in 1996. After spending hours tracking down corrupted sorcerers, slaughtering entire armies, and watching the 9 pillars slowly crumble into ruin, you are finally forced to confront the ultimate truth of your cursed existence. you discover that you were never a free agent seeking simple personal vengeance. You were merely a carefully manipulated pawn in a cosmic game of political betrayal, chess, and ancient prophecies. This realization leads directly to the game's famous final choice, which completely alters the destiny of the world. Standing before the shattered foundations of the pillars, Kain is given a binary ultimatum: sacrifice his own life to heal the land and allow humanity to thrive once more, or refuse the sacrifice, sentence the world to eternal decay and damnation, and rule over the rotten ruins as an absolute god. For the mid-90s, giving the player the agency to fundamentally break the world and reject a traditional heroic sacrifice was an incredible, bold artistic decision that caught mainstream audiences completely off guard. What makes this design choice so uniquely compelling is how it reframes the entire experience. There is no hidden, idealised good ending tucked away behind the convoluted side quest. There is only the organic culmination of the character you have been building since the opening act. If you choose to damn Nosgoth, you aren't betraying the narrative. You are fulfilling the exact logic of the predatory monster the gameplay loop forced you to become. It is a masterpiece of ludo-narrative harmony that cemented the game's lasting legacy, leaving a dark mark on the industry that would directly pave the way for a generation of morally complex, choice-driven storytelling.
May Victus! 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 May Victus!
With the fate of Nosgoth entirely sealed in your final heavy decision, the grand tragedy of Kain draws into its dark conclusion. Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain stands as a monumental testament of what happens when a development team dares to respect the intelligence of their audience. Delivering a narrative of unparalleled depth that completely shatters the conventional boundaries of its era, it proved that video games could handle the weight of true Shakespearean storytelling without losing the visceral thrill of an engaging gameplay loop. We have officially watched the pillars crumble, drawn the curtains on a dying empire, and successfully marked another legendary landmark entry into our digital archives. That brings our grim journey through the dark landscapes of Nosgoth to an end, with 216 games down and 1062 left to go on our grand architectural mission. If you enjoyed this deep, blood-soaked dive into one of the system's most literal masterpieces, please take a brief moment to manipulate those digital algorithms by leaving a like, dropping a comment below with your own memories of Kain's arrogance, and subscribing to the channel so you never miss a step into this massive journey. A truly special, heartfelt thank you goes to our incredible channel members, whose continued dedicated support acts as a vital lifeblood, keeping this entire massive documentation project alive and kicking. Next time, we are stepping out of the gothic shadows of Western fantasy and plunging headfirst into feudal Japan for index entry 217, Tenchu 2, Birth of the Stealth Assassins. Long-time viewers will remember our intense tactical breakdown of the original Tenchu Stealth Assassins all the way back in index entry 65. But this upcoming prequel represents a completely fresh, brand new experience for me as a first-time playthrough. We will be trading the vampiric bloodletting for the quiet, lethal precision of the ninja, testing our patience against a whole new set of historical mechanics. I'll see you in the shadows for the next entry.